Ryan Wilson here at the Stone X Stadium, Saracens ground, here with Jamie Berrisford, head rugby consultant. How's it going, mate? How are you finding it?
Good, mate. It's good to be in amongst the process I went through and help potential student athletes go out to the States and have the same experience as I did.
Is it weird being back here? Thinking that you came to a trial, when you were 18?
Yeah, just turned 18, yeah.
And so you had been here in in the shoes of what these kids are going through. How did you feel before your trial?
Mate, I was nervous, to be honest. Like you think it's going to be really intense, and it is to some extent, but once you're out there and you get in amongst it, it's fine, you know.
And what level of rugby, where were you playing before you came for your trial?
So I was playing for a club called Stuarts Melville in Edinburgh, so they were playing at National 1, so just below the Premiership in Scotland.
And
so fairly decent.
Representing Scotland, or were you?
No, I did all the regional stuff up in Scotland. So I played for Caledonia under 17s. Moved down to Edinburgh for college for a couple of years and did Edinburgh under 20s. But apart from that, no.
Why did you want to go over to the USA then and play rugby?
So part of it was that I didn't really and I wasn't really on the books at any sort of academies or nothing like that. And I still wanted to potentially go professional, and I wanted to take my rugby seriously. So when I missed out on the opportunities in Scotland, I thought, look, it'd be great to play rugby somewhere else, and looked into scholarships to the States and found FirstPoint, and it was kind of went from there.
And so you ended up over in the US. Where did you go? What uni were you
So I went to a small university in Georgia called Life University. They're a D1 program. It's just outside of Atlanta. So initially, when I was looking to go out to the States, I wanted to make sure I was going to a university that had a good rugby program. It was important for me that I wasn't just going and playing at a lower level than I was already at. So Life was one of the ones I had in mind from the start, to be honest.
And you talk about the level and the standard of rugby then. So when you got out to the US, what was it like? What was the standard like over there? I mean, how long ago was that you first went?
So I started in the fall of 2016.
So
a wee while now.
7 years ago. So yeah, so in terms of the standard 7 years ago when you first went over, and obviously now with the standard of rugby in the US colleges, Where was it and where is it now?
So initially I was surprised at how good it was. I thought I'd be going over there and running through everyone, I'd be the best player there, but that wasn't the case. I suppose going to a D1 program, you're never going to be the best player on the team, but when I was there was about 3-4 teams that were competing at the highest level, but then there was a bit of a drop off, but now there's so many more teams and programs that are competing at that level. Teams that were in lower leagues before are now pushing top 10, top 5, so it's only going to get better with more teams playing.
Who were some of the better teams, and who are the sort of leading teams now over in the sort of stuff?
When I was there, top teams would have been ourselves, a team called Lindenwood University in Missouri, St. Mary's in California, and then California Berkeley were kind of the top 4 when we were there. Most playoff semi-finals would be us 4. And
fair bit of travelling?
Yeah. So during the varsity season, obviously you play in your conference. So our conference was the Eastern Conference, and so we'd play teams in Michigan, South Carolina. We were up in Missouri a couple of times. We were at the Penn State. We were up in New York once or twice as well. So plenty of travel.
Yeah, it must have been amazing as a young rugby player, a young man going over to the US and being able to travel around and see all the different states in the US.
Yeah.
It must have been some experience.
And that's what it was for me, getting to. Like at the time, you maybe don't really notice it, but then when I finished and I got to look back on my experience, it was amazing getting to see parts of the world I never would have dreamed of seeing.
And then, before we move back to what you've done in terms of coming back to Scotland, talk to us like what was the daily sort of routine like with you as a college athlete?
So a standard day, it's pretty busy. So you're up in the morning, you got your weights at about 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. Come back, have some breakfast, have a shower. Straight to class from about 9 till 11. You got about an hour or so break for your lunches, and you got another class at 12 to about just before 2. After that, you're heading down to the pitch. You got your team session. Sometimes there's a review at the start, depending on the day. You're out there for a team session for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and you're back home, get some dinner, and then try and get some studying done as well.
So it's pretty full on. It's not just all about the sport. There's a lot of studying going on there as well.
Absolutely, and initially that was difficult for me. Like most young rugby players, all we think about is the rugby's going to be the main thing, but you can't. That's the good thing about being over there. It keeps you accountable. You can't have one without the other, so you have to make sure you're giving yourself that time to potentially do an assignment that's due tomorrow or something. Don't leave it till the last minute.
Yeah, God, I know about that. For me, if I'm looking at it as a young player, you look at the facilities out there. Right. What were the facilities like at your uni, firstly, and what were some of the facilities you came across like in the US?
Mate, it was fantastic. Like you have this image of what it's going to be like in your head when you go over there. You think, oh, it's only a select few, but even going to a small university like Life, it was better than anything I'd kind of dealt with in the UK. We had, just in the summer before I went out there was a new AstroTurf pitch built, and they built some stands up there as well because there was a professional team coming and they were playing out of our stadium as well. We had our own rugby-specific gym up on top beside the stadium as well, so yeah, it was fantastic. And then you go to the bigger like state schools like a Penn State or an Arkansas State, they're massive. It's pretty hard to put it into words when you actually see it in person.
Did you manage to get into a bit of NFL when you were out there, a bit of American football?
Oh,
were you lured into that, or were they just different athletes?
Mate, I wouldn't mind it, but they are, like, there's a lot, you see that with rugby, there's a lot of these athletes transition. Contact sports probably the closest thing they'll get, so a lot of the people I played with were ex-footballers, and especially down in the deep south, football's a bit of a religion down there, so yeah, there was a lot of football going on, but no, I don't think it was for me.
What do you reckon your highlight of being out in the US at college was? One of your highlights in terms of rugby?
Rugby, I'd say we were lucky enough to be successful. We won 2 national titles when we were out there, but the second one, real tight game. They were coming for us, and a lot of that season we weren't blowing teams out. It was really close, and a lot of people had wrote us off. But to come back and win in the way we won, that was probably on the pitch. That was probably my favourite moment.
Biggest perks of being a college athlete?
Probably the facilities and getting to do your sport full time. I was just mad about my rugby when I went over there, so being able to train every day and train with your mates it's fantastic. Like, you'll know yourself. Every day you get to go out and do something you love with your friends. So initially, when you don't really know them, but when towards the end they're some of your best friends, and I've got lucky enough to say some of my best friends are from all around the world, and say getting to play and train with them every day was fantastic.
That's it, getting enough time under your belt in terms of training wise, and obviously the facilities. I'm guessing you came back, do you reckon you came back a better player, better for it?
Absolutely. For me, I was pretty tall, but I was fairly slim. I wasn't physically developed, but coming back I was a lot bigger, stronger, a bit more confident in myself as well. And then in terms of playing the game, because you're coming in as an international student, you can read the game maybe a little bit better than some American students who've only played from high school. So that kind of leadership role as well, you pick up on that as well, having to help people that might not know the game as well as you. And for me, the reason I was recruited by Life was I could do a lot of work in a line-out, so being able to run a line-out and things like that, and just picking up these skills that you might not do before. And
I suppose, in a way, that sort of lent its hand to what you're doing now with FirstPoint, right? Like you said, you're teaching people the game out there because it's not as well known. With some of the leadership skills and that sort of stuff. So that's lent its hand to what you're doing now for FirstPoint.
Yeah, absolutely. And just knowing what the landscape of the sport and stuff is like over there helps a lot. When potential student athletes come and ask me like what the standard is like, and that it's easy enough to kind of tell them because I've been there and done that. So it's been great, to be honest, coming back to FirstPoint. And
then not only for career-wise, but in terms of your rugby, you came back and you're now playing at Watsonians.
Watsonians at the moment, yeah. I joined the Watsonians last year. It's been great. The team's been fantastic, so yeah, it's been great. I was lucky enough through rugby, I got an opportunity to go play in Ireland for a couple of years, so you never know what's going to come and who you're going to potentially meet when you're over there in the States, and anything can happen from it, you know. So Jamie, what advice would you give to a young aspiring athlete who's thinking about going and spending a bit of time in the States? I'd say definitely give it some thought. Like, for me, like I said before, I really wanted to pursue rugby, and I didn't think the States was going to be an avenue that I could do. And like most people, you wouldn't think rugby's played too much in the States, but definitely look into it. And the opportunities I got from it are fantastic. I wouldn't be where I was, obviously, with FirstPoint, but in terms of rugby as well, if I hadn't done that. And just give it some serious thought, because it's fantastic. It's a fantastic opportunity. But when you're over there, sometimes it can get a bit difficult. For me, especially my first year, you find it difficult seeing all your friends back home, spending time together, but you realise the opportunity you have, so just take it all in, enjoy every moment of it. Not many people get to do what you're potentially going to do. So. And there's no better time at the moment, with the rugby being the fastest growing college sport in the US. There's no better time, right? Absolutely, and with the MLR, rugby's only going to get bigger. Obviously, the World Cup coming up, it's going to be great. It'll be a good place to be. Good man. Thank you very much for your time. Man, thank you. Cut.